Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're going to look at a document, a bill.
Right. And the idea is, let's imagine you've never really read one before. They can seem kind of intimidating, right?
Exactly. So our mission is to unpack one using a real example, see how it's built, what the pieces mean.
Makes sense. Sort of like learning the recipe for how a law gets proposed.
Yeah. And the specific one we have is titled, A Bill for an ACT to Establish a Point System Prioritizing Veterans in the Review and Approval Process for Small Business Loans Administered by the Commonwealth Economic Development Authority, CETA, and for other purposes. Quite a mouthful.
It is, but that long title is actually your first clue. It basically summarizes the whole point right there.
Okay, so it tells you up front. Points, veterans, small business loans, CETA.
Precisely. Gives you the gist. And you'll notice it often says, and for other purposes. That's kind of a catch-all.
And there's usually a shorter title, too.
Yep. This one's called the Veteran Small Business Loan Opportunity Act of 2025. Much easier to remember and talk about.
Okay, so after the title, what's next if you're reading through?
You'll see a formal phrase, something like, be it enacted by the Commonwealth Legislature.
Ah, the official stamp. Like, okay, we're serious. This is proposed law.
Exactly. That's the signal. Then the bill breaks down into sections. Think of them like chapters.
Right. Section 1 usually just states that short title again. Easy enough.
Then section 2 is often findings and purpose. This is important.
Why is that? Is it just background?
It's more than that. It's the legislature explaining why they think this law is needed. It sets the stage.
So for this bill, what are the stated reasons?
Well, it talks about challenges veterans face coming back to civilian life, the value of supporting veteran entrepreneurs both morally and for the economy.
Okay, so it's building the case for the bill.
Exactly. It tells you the problem they're trying to solve. Here, it's about creating the specific point system for CETA loans.
Got it. Then section 3, definitions. This sounds technical?
It is, but it's crucial. Laws need absolute clarity. Ambiguity is bad news later on.
So what do they define here?
Key terms used throughout the bill.
Yeah.
Like veteran specifically, honorable discharge, CETA, the Development Authority, resident, clarifying who counts, like U.S. citizens, indigenous CNMI folks, residency duration.
And small business too, right?
Right, linking it back to CETA's own criteria for what counts as a small business. It ensures everyone uses the terms the same way.
Makes sense. Okay, now the core part, section 4. Veteran Priority Point System. This is the how, right?
This is the nuts and bolts, yeah. It lays out exactly how applications will get points.
So walk us through it. What gets points?
Okay, so being a veteran with an honorable discharge gets you 20 points.
Okay.
Having a service-connected disability adds another 10. And if the business is majority veteran-owned, that's 5 more points.
Interesting. So multiple ways veteran status contributes.
Right. But it's not only about veteran status. Residency matters, too.
How so?
CNMI indigenous residents get 10 points. Other U.S. citizen residents get 5. So a local preference.
And what about the business itself?
Big chunk of points there, up to 50. Based on CETA's assessment of its viability and community impact.
Yeah.
That's quite subjective, potentially.
Yeah, give CETA some discretion. Anything else?
A small boost, 5 points for being a first-time entrepreneur.
Okay. And it mentions the system has to be public and reviewed annually.
Yes. That's key for transparency and, well, making sure it stays relevant and fair over time. They can tweak it if needed.
Right. So section 5 then explains how CETA actually uses these points.
Pretty much. It says all applications get scored and funding decisions prioritize the higher scores, depending on how much money is available.
And accountability.
They have to document their decisions. Again, transparency.
Okay, moving on. Section 6, implementation. This is about making it happen.
Exactly. It tells CETA, okay, you've got 90 days to create the actual rules and procedures to make this point system work.
So things like public notices, guidelines, staff training.
All that practical stuff. Turning the words on the page into action.
Then we have sections 7 and 8, which seem pretty standard. Severability.
Yeah, that's common legal boilerplate.
Yeah.
It just means if a court strikes down one part of the law, the rest can hopefully still stand. It's a safety clause.
And section 8, effective date.
Simply says when the law starts. Usually upon the governor's approval, or if it becomes law without signature after a certain time.
Okay, so stepping back.
Yeah.
If you're new to this, a bill is basically a structured proposal for a law.
Right. It identifies a problem, defines terms clearly, proposes a specific solution or mechanism like this point system, and outlines how to put it into action.
Understanding that structure, that flow, really helps demystify these documents, doesn't it? You can kind of see the logic.
Absolutely. And once you get the basic structure, you can apply that understanding to pretty much any bill on any topic you encounter.
It empowers you to actually engage with what's being proposed.
Definitely. Which leads to a thought to leave you with.
We've seen how this point system aims to prioritize veterans for business loans. Where else could a similar system awarding points based on specific criteria be used? Could you apply it to other areas to prioritize different groups or goals? What might be the upsides or maybe the potential pitfalls of doing that? Something to think about.